Hey friends, and welcome to MomTalk Maryland. I'm your host, Claire Duarte, founder of the Columbia Mom, and this is your spot for real conversations, local love, and a whole lot of community. Whether you're folding laundry, running errands, or hiding in your car for some peace and quiet, let's dive in. So I wanted to update you on my Rebalance health and wellness journey. About a month ago, let me start over. I officially became a Rebalance health and wellness client. And it's funny because when I initially met Laura, we had met because she wanted to partner with us to do some marketing, which we did. We did the beginning of the year. That's when I got to know her business. And, we did some reels and some blogs and lots of fun stuff. And the more I got to know her, I was like, oh my God, I need to be a client. When I learned about what she did, like obviously we learned about that, during the intake calls and the discovery process when we're getting to know other businesses. But it was just the more time that we spent together, and because I was doing interviews with her and her husband who own it, and I was just like blown away. I'd never really heard of hormone replacement therapy or functional integrative providers. It just hadn't really occurred to me. And so as we came down the end of that campaign, I just kept saying, I was like, I need to become a client. We got to figure this out. And so we talked and we were like, absolutely. So anyway, so in April is when I fully jumped in. So the first part of her process, essentially after, just general, initial intake, is you go get all of your tests done. So that was a full blood panel. I did a home cortisol test where I had to spit saliva into these little tubes. It's timed. It's a whole thing. She did a finger prick in the office for food sensitivity, and literally a stool test that I had to do at home. And that was sent in to get all my GI results. So yeah, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that I had to do, but she's like, it takes a little bit to process all the results, a few weeks up to a month. So then, that's when we had scheduled that meeting. We actually know before I did the test, I went into her office so she could kind of tell me about all the tests that I had to do, give me all the instructions, including the information on doing an elimination diet. The reason I didn't start the elimination diet then is because it was a week to Easter, and then we were also going to Charleston for our spring break right after. So I was like, okay, I knew that I wasn't going to start the elimination diet, which is part almost like her phase-ish too of the program. And so that's why I started the elimination diet. 2 weeks ago. I was just doing the math. And I started it on the Tuesday after, because we got back from Charleston on a Sunday. And then I used Monday to kind of prep, and then I started Tuesday. And I've done some of these elimination diet things before from different cleanses, some of the Beachbody programs and Whole30, different variations of that. So I am familiar with the mindset of, having to sort of separate yourself, do things differently. A lot of prep. There's so much prep because there's so much that you cannot have, and trying to break free of that mental mindset of I can't have this, I can't have that, the black and white thinking, the all or nothing. It's challenging. I'm not an expert at it, and I still haven't done this. I still haven't been 100% squeaky clean, which I'll talk about, but yeah. So anyways, so I started that 2 weeks ago, and so in the first 2 weeks of the elimination, she wants you to do it for 4 weeks, and the first 2 weeks you take 2 shakes a day, and chocolate protein shakes, and there's these 2 pill packets, and on this elimination diet there's no alcohol, caffeine, dairy, grains, or sugar, and no legumes, which is peanuts and beans and things like that. But you can have protein. It needs to be beef needs to be grass fed, chickens free range, salmon and shrimp, wild caught, things like that. Trying to get as much organic produce as possible, trying to eliminate all pesticides, chemicals, processed foods, things like that. Because the goal is that we're trying to not only detox, but heal my gut, which I'll get into a little bit. So yeah, I started the elimination diet 2 weeks ago. The alcohol part is definitely not the hard part for me. I haven't been drinking as much over the years since becoming a mom. Caffeine and coffee actually hasn't been as bad. I know, blasphemy. Come for me in the comments, I guess. But I started taking a B12 supplement in the fall after my last primary, and that has really helped my energy levels a lot. I also do take Adderall, a really low dose, and that as a stimulant kind of helps like me get the focus and things that I need. So haven't been missing coffee or alcohol at all. That's been fine. It's definitely the dairy and the grains portion for sure. When I'm home, it's fine. It's easy, like less temptations, but when I'm out, it's much harder. And the reality is when it comes to these elimination diets, there's no good time for these. I've done them all times of year. I would argue this month, May-Cember, is rough because it's like I've already had 3 birthdays, or three events, well, more than 3 events in the last like 10 days. And even this week alone is pretty nuts. Like I have, oh my gosh, I have a networking event tomorrow. I have like 4 or 5 events this weekend. Next weekend's even crazier. So, and there's Memorial Day coming up. So a lot of like, and I'm a foodie, a lot of food temptations. So that has definitely been challenging. I guess I look at it like this, like, even 80% following this is better than 0%. I realize that's like not the point of the elimination, to try to, adhere to it as much as possible to really give your gut that chance to like breathe. So I am trying, Laura, I'm trying. If you hear this, if you see this, but, that being said, I definitely have had like a cookie here or there, like a little like snack here or there. Weekends are hard. Weekends are hard. I'm just a girl, guys. And honestly, when she had said that she doesn't retest the blood work for another like 3 months, sometimes 3 or 6, depends, on what it shows. I was like, oh well, then if we're not testing that for a while, then it's fine. What harm will it do? Well, so the next part of the process is, having the essentially what she calls like the test results, findings meeting. And that was last Tuesday. And I had an inkling because it runs in my family. And when I actually got a copy of my blood work sent home, and I had my husband look at it since he's a doctor, and because I was like, what? I don't speak medical, I don't know any of this, and so we saw some things that were definitely high and definitely low, and so I already had kind of that in my brain. I also know like some like hypothyroidism, high cholesterol, all run in kind of both sides of my family. So, anyways, when we sat down and met, she was like, yes, you definitely have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism. And my cholesterol is high by like 1 point. What she was actually sort of less concerned about, more the thyroid, because she was like, that could also be influencing it. And also, cholesterol can often be genetic. So she wasn't as worried about that so much as the issues that come with Hashimoto's. And one of her biggest things was like, she was like, I want you to be dairy free for 3 months. And I was like, so my running joke is that I threw my drink in her face and walked out the door. So, I mean, Grant, I'm not a medical professional. I cannot give and will not give you any kind of medical advice or tell you what to do, because I'm still kind of trying to learn all this and wrap my head around understanding all of it. I almost wish that I had fully recorded our entire findings meeting, because Laura was so thorough, and can literally go through that entire plan. Not only can she, and she can also pronounce everything like literally perfectly, like all the gut bacteria. I'm like, oh my God. Because they're like, it's just like a bunch of like letters at that point. And, and I was just kind of like mesmerized because she's talking about like, there's the good bacteria, and then there's the bad bacteria, and then there's the parasites, and then you need the digestive enzymes, and you need all of this, da 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 da. And I guess the thing with Hashi's is it's an autoimmune condition. So, essentially like your body's being your immune system. And she was like, she spent so much time talking about the gut because, again, I'm sure I've heard it, but I feel like I'm just like relearning all of this stuff, is that 75% of your like body's fighting ability or immunoresponse is in your gut. And so when your gut is crap, makes it even harder for someone with an immuno condition. And I was like, okay. Puzzle pieces are starting to come together. And she was like, and also for you, like on my food sensitivity test, dairy, she said, was marked as a higher trigger. Gluten, I didn't spike for gluten, so lucky me. Though I might have traded dairy for gluten, but that's, I guess they're both in everything. So I mean, ironically, both dairy and gluten are high trigger items for immuno things. So a lot of people sometimes eliminate both just to help them feel better. I don't know if that's eventually something I'll do. I have no idea. I'm already fighting tooth and nail just to be compliant with dairy. So we'll just see how that goes. I mean, I cannot and will not go through my whole blood panel results with you because it's like so detailed and obviously personal. But I mean, I guess the reality is I'm a pretty open book. I'm here to talk to you about everything and anything really. If you ask me, but I'm sure to tell you. But I also am like, I don't know what this value means. You go ask Laura. she'll be the one to really tell you. All I know, like my biggest takeaway is she's Laura. If you're listening and or watching, and she's probably like rolling her eyes because she's like, you know, she can go through it like so like closely. But was that I was like, I am like really high in stuff you're not supposed to be, and really low in the stuff that like I need, you know. And right before this, I actually did have my IUD taken out just to like be more natural. I'd had it in for like since well, I got it in right after I had my son. So since 21. So like 4 years. And so she's just like, we just want to get you to a place where you're more hormonally balanced. And so her approach is, you know, utilizing all these supplements. I have like a whole slew of them. Everything from like fiber, magnesium, DHEA. I have to take digestive enzymes because my body has like none of that. Biocidin. Oh, I forgot to take that last night. I'm thinking I might put it in my bedroom so I don't forget. The majority of my supplements are all in the morning, and then I need to take digestive enzymes with like every meal. Which, by the way, I snack all the time. So it's like, which meal are we talking about? So that's interesting. The good news, I will say, everyone's like, oh, you'll feel so much better. I was like, the ironic thing for me is like, I didn't feel terrible prior to this. And let me go back a little bit, because I was like thinking about it more and more. So I hadn't talked about this a lot, but mainly because when I started it, it wasn't as mainstream yet, and honestly, it was still, I don't know, not frowned on, but it was a little taboo. So I mean, I told my friends because I was like, I don't care. But I started semaglutide like a year and a half ago, and again, like I said, it was less rampant. It was starting to become more popular, but anyways, because in summer 2023, I hit my highest non-pregnancy weight. Meaning like I basically like I was almost 200 pounds when I went to give birth to both my son and my daughter. I was like 190, 195, 200, like something like right up there. And that summer after coming, I remember we went to a wedding in Mexico and we came back and I came back and I got on the scale and I was like right around there, like 193, 195, something like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is a problem. And ironically, prior to that, for like a year and a half, I've been working with a friend of mine from college who's a macro coach. And it initially was working. I know it's also one of the things is like it works when you work. And was my eating squeaky clean? Absolutely not. There was times I knew that I was more diligent on it, of course. But I'm remembering that year and a half. I remember feeling really frustrated because we kept upping my protein, and I felt like all I was doing was just gaining weight. And I remember feeling so frustrated. Granted, was I still over snacking? Yeah. But it was just very frustrating. What else? so I was saying, yeah, I was working with macro coach, and that's when she was educating me on like increasing my steps, prioritizing sleep, and ditching cardio. And that's kind of when I broke up with cardio, and really, and I was still working out from home, but I was exclusively strength training. And yeah, that's when I really started to kind of like get into strength training more and really prioritizing that, learning the basics of, macros, trying to, up your protein, eat more balanced, things like that. So anyway, so summer 2023, finally I'm like, oh my God. Oh, but so I mentioned that obviously I gained all that weight. And it's funny because now when I look back, I'm like, okay, I think I definitely had the trail mark symptoms for thyroid issues. Like again, the weight gain, the skin issues for sure. Moodiness, maybe I can't remember, but definitely the brain fog and the fatigue. Like I think those were all big ones, right? Oh, my husband told me that I definitely used to snore. Obviously, all the weight, right? Um, and so I mean, I started the semaglutide mainly for vanity because I was like, I want to lose weight. I'm like, I'm struggling over here, y'all. So I lost like about 35, 40 pounds over the last year and a half, and I've been pretty like stable since like last summer. And but I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine like how much worse I would feel if I still had those 40 pounds on me. um I should also mention that 2 years ago, like I wasn't being followed by a good primary. I remember I kept trying to find one. Anytime I felt like I would call and they'd be like, oh, we're full, or like, they're not taking any more patients. And I was like, oh. So like I know I didn't have a good relevant blood panel around that time period of my life. So I did finally get a new primary last year who I really liked. He did a blood panel, and I'm sure he mentioned the thyroid stuff, but we didn't do anything about it at the time. That I'm like, did I just not listen? I don't know. I feel like if he told me or referred me, I would have gone. I'm honestly not remembering. He was very thorough, and I really enjoyed working with him. He's the one that also really pushed the other supplements, and he said my vitamin D I think was decent, but wanted to increase my B12, and that's when I started that, and that's when I felt a really big difference, and my coffee intake went down, things like that. So anyway, so yeah, so fast forward to now, right? People are like, oh, you'll feel so much better without dairy, but been feeling like fine for the most part. Again, like I sleep pretty well. I mean, my brain, my brain, my memory feels like crap. That's for sure. I feel brain foggy a little, but I think again, as a mom and a woman, I feel like it's so hard to discern like which is which because again, I'm no longer postpartum. I no longer have babies. I'm no longer having like the sleep deprivation. But I am, like, for the first time in my life, like a business owner, and that is brand new to me. And I mean, obviously in the last few years, but like, to be a mom and a business owner is completely different stress than being an employee. And I say that in the terms of like the brain fog. It's just, I feel like my brain is always on. Like my brain feels like it's always running. I always got to, I'm thinking about all these things I always have to do, which again, ironically, is how we as moms think and operate anyways, right? Just throw like business responsibilities into the mix, right? So I think the brain fog is definitely there, but I've been taking the Adderall, for the last couple years prior to that. And again, I feel like that helps give me the focus and clarity that I need. So in a way, I think my symptoms have been very masked by other things like, the weight loss, B12, helping my energy, the Adderall, also helping with the focus and clarity. But it's like the perfect example of like things can seem fine on the outside when you like open the hood and like everything's on fire. Like basically my gut like was horrible, basically. I joke with Laura. I was like she she's showing me the panels, showing me the levels, and she was like, "You have like zero fiber." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I know. I ate a biscuit right after they took my blood." I was like, could you imagine if I did have fiber though? Like how good would that look, right? Um, like, yeah, my fiber was horrible. Was I prioritizing balancing my eating super well while on the semaglutide? Perhaps not, I definitely had like some constipation issues. Um, I mean, water I've always been pretty good at. But yeah, anyway, so now it's like it does make me really glad that, you know, I mean, I pulled the trigger because I was like, okay, I'm 37 now. Yes, I have a good primary that I really like. I know that I've got these known, genetic things that run in my family. Maybe it's a good, time to see if what I have working on and going on, and see if I was just thinking, no, we just need to tweak, balance a few little supplements. Didn't realize there was going to be a giant overhaul. And that's the part that I'm, you know, starting to work on, right? The lifestyle changes and things like that. I mean, I already work out 3 days a week, strength training. My sleep is good. My cortisol levels were good, which I was actually glad about. Because for the most part, I think I feel decent. We all have stress, right? Um, Dairy was the most significant of the food triggers. The next one was brewer's yeast, brewer's yeast and baker's yeast, which is like beer. And I'm like, I've never drank beer. I like beer and I will have it, but you know, so I mean, I've cut out alcohol right now anyway. So, but dairy was a big one. Another one was almonds, and I was like, oh, that's great because I'm just doing nothing but pounding almonds on this elimination diet right now. I need to circle back with her and clarify of like how much she wants me to cut that out or not. I'm not sure. But anyways, all this being said, the goal now, and what's neat after going through all the findings, right, is like she puts together a whole plan, right, of like, here's the findings, here are the overall goals, here's where you're kind of low and suboptimal on, here are the supplements that she's recommending, right, and gives you a whole plan of, and a whole regimen and schedule for those, and then the role and importance of each one, um, and then a section on potential and possible prescription medications to integrate. We talked through the current ones that I am taking. And, she said all of that is fine, so wants me on that. We will eventually, like, I started on testosterone because, believe it or not, all of us need it, men, and obviously men, but like women too. Like, you think estrogen, right? But like there's a reason, like we need a yin to our yang, right? I also still need more progesterone. It's wild. Again, and I wouldn't have known this had I not met Laura, or had Laura never even reached out in the first place. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like the beauty and power of connection and community, So in many ways, I'm so thankful for Laura for this process, for this journey, right? Am I stubborn? Yes. Am I a professional complainer? Double yes. Am I going to give dairy up for 3 months? We're going to do our best. We have this on recording. We're going to do our best. I am not proclaiming perfection here, but that's just what we're gonna do, right? I have 2 more weeks of this elimination diet, and I guess I talked to her about like, what she advises for reintroduction of those things. I don't know if she's gonna still encourage me to keep some of those things out. I'm not sure, but I mean, I've been eating like a ton of fruits and vegetables, like pretty much all organic, or like 90% organic at this point. There's some things that's like, that have like the thick skins that like it's probably like borderline, but like, your berries, strawberries, things like that, you definitely want organic for sure. So that's been a big focus. And actually, as starting tomorrow, the shakes, the 2 weeks of the shakes and the pills will be done, so I can start reintegrating my shakes. And now I'll be having, I guess I go back to 3 meals now, because I was doing like 2 shakes, a meal, and like snacks. So that'll be, yeah, kind of, this is as I move into week 3 of the elimination. So yeah, so that's where I'm currently at. Like I said, to be honest, I still feel pretty good. I mean, since I did start taking some of those supplements last week, and I'll admit, I did started to feel like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like a little crampy or a little like tummy gurgly. I mean, again, I'm probably taking, it's probably trying to help get my body back to where it should and needs to be So with probably a little mixture of like, some dairy cheating. um, so it's interesting. Um, I know if I cut it all out, it'd be a lot easier to identify. Sorry, Laura, doing my best. Um, but like I said, all in all, for the most part, I do feel good. Being in, when I'm out of the house and have events, that's when I feel the temptations are rough. But, we're going to keep chugging along, and I'm definitely going to keep you updated on as, we keep finding more things. I think from here, I have monthly like check-ins with her. Like I said, we won't do the blood work again for another few months. And I know she kept checking in with me like, are you okay? Like, how are you processing everything? And I just, you got to say like her sensitivity to the intense her sensitivity to the intensity of the information was wonderful. I am by no means like somebody that like, it didn't shock me and I wasn't scared or overwhelmed. I think she kept texting me and checking in to like just make sure I was okay and if I still had questions. And to be honest, like last week was so busy, so I was like, no, I'm okay. And genuinely, like I really am saying that. I wasn't like, oh my god, like feel like devastated. Like I don't know, like I'm okay. Like people don't die from this. Like you got to take care of yourself. And this might, yeah, it could mean some very drastic lifestyle things. And if that's what I need to do, that's what I'll take the time to do and figure out. For right now, it's just kind of like focusing on this plan, doing the best that I can, and trying, and just keep doing those things. Like I said, try to prioritize my sleep, keep working out. Movement is really good for the gut and the health. But it's just I think why I really like this journey is to just kind of remember the importance of like, we as moms and women, like, we I was gonna say we need a lot of things, but like we still need protein. We still need these important hormones in our bodies to be working, whether you're perimenopausal or perimenop or menopause or not. You know what I mean? We need muscle mass. Like these things are important, and so that's what I think. I love her approach in that it is very holistic and she's looking at the whole picture. She's like, women need more sleep than men. And I notice that because I'm always in the bed longer than my husband. He can kind of wake up on the drop of a hat. And he's a light sleeper. I fortunately can fall asleep very quickly and I stay asleep. I'm a deep sleeper. Because my body needs it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's been a wonderful reminder. I mean, like I said, I really do like working out. Really like strength training. I do like to take care of my body, even if I want to treat it like a garbage can at times. Um, Admittedly, like, I do feel really good today, and I'm like, it feels good to kind of like follow the plan as it is, and I know when I stick to it, it feels good. So it, all in all, I think the biggest eye-opening thing to this is just it's not having the doomsday mentality of like you can feel good and that but everything's bad. It's not that, but I think it is just being mindful of the importance of, you know, of getting yourself checked, of, evaluating what you're doing. Is it actually working or not? Or are you masking potential symptoms? And that is again the biggest challenge being a woman for sure in discerning all of this. But I mean, all I can say and speak to, like, this has just been my journey, my experience so far. And I feel like the more that I've talked about it, I've heard, again, how common Hashis is. But, and I've heard more and more people talk about functional medicine. And again, I wish it was something that was talked about more because she said, like, you can go to your primary, but they're not going to run a blood panel like this. Not because they don't like you, but because, like, that's just not how insurance works. It's not going to be as thorough. You're not going to get to see the whole picture. And they're also not trained in all these areas to be an expert, on everything from like your thyroid and your gut and things like that. Sometimes they'll send you to like an endocrinologist, but, and then they might be missing the other hormone piece of it. So, I can't tell you how good it feels to have like a provider like Darren and Laura that can like literally see everything and talk about it from every angle. And, in a way, like we're still kind of finding it out and seeing how all of the results evolve. I'm hoping in 3 months that I'm just a picture of health. It's like, but like I said, I think all we can do in this life is to do our best. And that's my goal for sure. I know I just love food too much. And that's all we can do, and but I'm excited to be on this journey. I am glad that I have the information. I'm glad to know that, yes, while things, my gut is kind of a mess, that I do have the ability to change it and to improve. Um, now it's just kind of like taking the step to see what will happen from here. So I'm excited to bring you along on this journey. So be sure to keep staying tuned, follow along. Like I said, we're going to keep putting out content on social media, some blogs, and again, and definitely some more podcast interviews. So, yeah. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of MomTalk Maryland. If you loved it, leave a review, share it with a friend, or tag me at the.columbiamom on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep supporting local, and keep being the incredible mom, woman, human that you are.